Lincoln and George Washington looked down from heaven at the state of affairs in the United States, they could not help but feel both pride and concern for their beloved country. The two founding fathers saw both positive and negative issues, including the internal conflicts among different parties, abortion, immigration, discrimination. George Washington began the conversation, saying,
"It is saddening to see how divided our country has become. We must remember that a house divided against itself cannot stand. We must work towards finding common ground and uniting our country once again."
Abraham Lincoln nodded in agreement and added,
"The internal conflicts among different parties have become toxic and harmful to the functioning of our democracy. We need to focus on finding solutions instead of constantly attacking one another. We must come together as a nation to address the issues that affect all of us."
The topic of abortion then came up, and George Washington said,
As a society, we must value the sanctity of life. We must remember that all life is precious and that we should do everything we can to protect it. However, we also need to consider the difficult situations that women may face and provide support for them.
Abraham Lincoln added,
"We must not forget that as a country, we value individual rights and freedom. We must find a way to balance these values with the need to protect life." When the conversation turned to immigration,
George Washington said,
We must not forget that our country was built by immigrants. We need to provide a path to citizenship for those who have come here seeking a better life. We must also ensure that we have strong borders and that those who wish to do us harm are not allowed to enter our country.
Abraham Lincoln agreed, saying,
"We cannot forget that the United States was founded on the principles of freedom and opportunity. We must find a way to welcome immigrants while also ensuring that they are not taking jobs away from American citizens."
Discrimination was another issue that came up, and George Washington said,
We must never forget that all people are created equal. We must work towards a society where everyone is treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their race, gender, or sexual orientation.
Abraham Lincoln added,
"We must also recognize that discrimination is a systemic problem that has been present in our country for far too long. We must address this issue head-on and work towards creating a more just and equitable society."
Finally, the topic of climate control was raised, and George Washington said,
We must be good stewards of the earth and protect it for future generations. We need to take action to address climate change and reduce our impact on the environment.
Abraham Lincoln nodded in agreement and said,
"We must not forget that we have a responsibility to protect the earth for future generations. We must take action now to address climate change and ensure that our planet remains habitable for all."
In conclusion, as Abraham Lincoln and George Washington looked down from heaven at the state of affairs in the United States, they had both concerns and advice for the current leaders of the country. They advised the leaders to work towards finding common ground and uniting the country, to value the sanctity of life while also protecting individual rights and freedom, to welcome immigrants while also ensuring strong borders, to address discrimination head-on, and to protect the environment for future generations. They reminded the leaders that the United States was founded on the principles of freedom, equality, and opportunity, and that we must work towards upholding these values.